I'm guessing some of you might have heard of this anti-social media bill. Now, while some people have taken out time to glance through the provisions of this bill, some people have not. As a result, we've been having different misinterpretation of the bill, and there are some people out there saying that once this bill is passed into law, we can no longer use social media. We can't tweet, we can't use Facebook, we can't post our pictures on Instagram, we can't even access any social media accounts. That is why I am here to help you and explain to you and simplify to you what exactly this bill is about, what you need to know, and what you should be concerned about. So in this video, we'll be discussing the almighty social media bill. Hello everyone, you're welcome to Legal Impress with Avi, where I enlighten, simplify and educate you about all things legal that relates to you and I. So in this video, I'll be explaining and giving you the key provisions, or highlighting the key provisions of the Internet Falsehood and Manipulation and Other Related Matters Bill, which simply means the social media bill. That's what a lot of people know it as. So the first thing I'll be taking you through is the aim of this anti-social media bill. According to them, the bill is proposed in order to prevent the transmission of false statements or false declaration of facts. Also, to suppress the promotion, financing, and support of any online location that is being used to transmit false statement or false declaration. Also, it's been stated that the aim of the bill is to also put in measures in order to detect and control online locations that have coordinated inauthentic behavior or misuse of online accounts. Another aim of the bill is to put in measures for the disclosure of information as it relates to paid content towards a political end. And the last one is to sanction offenders. So that is the aim of the bill. Let's go into what this bill will prohibit us from doing if passed into law. The first is no one should do any act to transmit false statement or declaration. Number two, you can also not transmit any statements that will likely be prejudicial to the public security, public health, public safety, tranquility, or prejudicial to the relation of Nigeria and other countries. You are also not to transmit any statement that will incite feelings of enmity or hatred or ill will between a person or group of persons. You are also not permitted to make any statement that would influence the outcome of an election into any office. Lastly, you're also not permitted to make any statement that would diminish public confidence in the performance of any duty or exercise of power by the government. Incite feelings of enmity or hatred, or what would diminish public confidence, was not really addressed in this bill, because it is quite funny that you can prohibit someone based on feelings. How do we determine or tell that my statement will incite feelings? It's a very vague thing that can be misinterpreted. Now, who enforces the provisions of this bill in the event of a breach? According to what the bill says, it is the Law Enforcement Department, which is the police. So if you should breach any of the provisions of this bill, it is the police that would enforce it. It's so funny because there are so many things in terms of security we're still dealing with in Nigeria, but it's the police that would enforce the provisions of this bill. So another additional role to the police. Now, interestingly, Aside from the fact that the police can issue a regulation against someone, if they also feel that it is in the public interest to issue a regulation, they will do it. So there are 5 types of regulation under the bill, and the essence of that regulation is that the police can issue this regulation to you as a person or as an internet intermediary if, in their opinion, you as a person, you've transmitted false statement or declaration, or the internet intermediary has been used, or it's the medium through which false information or declaration has been transmitted. So depending on whatever category you belong to or whatever it is you've transmitted or said, then it will determine the type of regulation that will be issued against the person or the internet intermediary. And the bad thing is, if you do not comply, it goes further to say that you're going to be paying like some crazy penalty fees, or you might be sentenced to prison for failing to comply with the regulation. Now, you see the interesting part of this bill. If you fail to comply with the regulation issued by the police, either as an internet intermediary or as a person, the police can direct the NCC, which will order the internet service provider to disable access to all end users, meaning cut them off the platform. All end users should be cut off. So at this point, they can decide to lock out social media platforms that false statements have been transmitting if such internet intermediary fail to comply with any regulation that has been issued on them by the police. Now, that is where it gets really interesting. So you as a person can either be shut out, or the internet intermediary can be shut out or disabled. Now, there's something very interesting under this bill that caught my attention, and it is the fact that as it relates to the correction regulation and the stop transmission regulation, whether or not you believe that what you transmitted or the statement or declaration that was being transmitted is true, it doesn't mean. The moment the police issues you a correction regulation or a stop transmission regulation, it is of no effect if what you transmitted in your own opinion is true. You still have to comply whether or not. And I'm like, wow. So are you saying that in my own opinion, if I think what I've said is true, I still have to comply? Well, yes, that is what the bill is saying. If you look further into the provisions of the bill, there were some things I saw and I'm like, this is a no, which people are not even talking of, and it is the issue of no defense. So under this bill, it is not a defense that you will not comply with the regulation that the police has issued against you if you are subject to any written law, contract, or rules of professional ethics or conduct, or whatever it is not defense that the reason I cannot comply is because based on a particular law, or based on a particular contract, or based on a particular rule, or whatever it is, I am unable to comply. It is no defense. Like, that is not bad enough. It is also no defense that you have applied that the regulation should be varied or cancelled. It is not defense. You must still comply. Then lastly, it is no defense that you have appealed to the High Court against the regulation that has been issued. Now, what this means is that irrespective of this defense I just listed, they are not tenable. Like, you cannot use it. And it's very funny because if you even go to court normally and you get a judgment against you, There's something called stay of proceedings that enables you to appeal to the higher courts, which is the Court of Appeal. So pending the determination of what the Court of Appeal says, nobody should do anything. Let's wait. And from the Court of Appeal, you can still go to the Supreme Court. But that is not the situation when you look at this bill. What this bill is saying now is whether or not you've appealed, whether or not you've applied that they should vary or cancel the regulation that has been issued against you, whether or not there is any law or written contract that you are bound by that will not enable you to comply with the regulation, it is no defense. You still need to comply. So comply, then you can go and appeal. That's like indirectly what they are saying, and it's totally ridiculous. Another thing that is interesting about this bill, no, I won't say interesting, let me call it worrying about this bill, is the issue of liability. Now, this bill has waived criminal and civil liability for any person, officer, agent or employee for doing or omitting to do anything to ensure that you comply with the regulation that has been issued against you, so far it is done in good faith. So what that means is, for example, the law enforcement department, which is the police, are the ones that are supposed to enforce. So if you don't comply, it means that the police can do anything they want to do to ensure that you comply. So far it's done in good faith. There is no criminal or civil liability against the police. I would really appreciate and hope that this bill is not passed into law, because if it is passed into law, in terms of how we can constructively criticize the government in power, even the opposition might not be able to say so much, because it's going to be like a back and forth fight or issue between them as to what they say, the extent or the limit to what they say. Another thing is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria supersedes any law or statutes, and this bill in a way wants to vary some key fundamental human rights provision of the Constitution, which is the suppression of the freedom of speech of people to be able to legally criticize the government or the people in power. We have freedom of speech in this country. It is guaranteed by our Constitution, and we have a law here trying to streamline how we should speak or the things we should say. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to share, like, post and send this video to your friends so that they can understand exactly what this bill is about, what it entails, and the things that they need to know about this bill. Thanks for watching.